Hi everybody, it's Lauren from Restore Your Core, and today what I am talking about is why do I leak pee when I jump, sneeze, cough, any of that, run. This is a really common question that I get all of the time, and there are so many myths around it that I just kind of want to start myth busting. So one of the major myths is I leak pee when I run because my pelvic floor muscles are not strong enough, and what I need to do now is more Kegels. I didn't do enough Kegels. So that's not actually true for most people. With the clients that I have, a lot of times I send them to pelvic floor physical therapy, and they come back and say, actually, my pelvic floor muscles are hypertonic. What does hypertonic mean? The pelvic floor muscles are too strong. They're stuck in a state of contraction. And so when muscles are stuck in a state of contraction and we add more load to it, or more tension to it, we're not actually getting to the heart of the problem. We're just adding tension to tension. So this is why a lot of people are very frustrated and they say, I don't understand. I've been doing my Kegels, or I need to do more Kegels, and it's not working for me. It's not working for you probably because your pelvic floor muscles are already too tight and tense, and they don't need more tension and tightness. They need to learn to release. The thing about any muscle in your body, muscles in our body fail when the load that we're asking them to manage is too much for them. It's very simple. So what does that even mean in simple English? Let's say this plastic bag is your pelvic floor, and the load that we're asking the plastic bag to carry is 3 apples. I now have 3 apples in here. This is fine. The bag can handle 3 apples. If I were to put 15 apples in here, the bag might not be able to handle that, and it would rip and tear and the apples would fall out, right? So I'm not comparing your pelvic floor to a plastic bag, but I kind of am, because what happens in our pelvic floor is our pelvic floor can handle everyday life, but then we add load. Running is a load, coughing is a load, sneezing is a load. It's like the sudden load. And what the pelvic floor needs to do, contrary to another myth, the pelvic floor, what it needs to do in that moment of extra load is this. It needs to be able to, I don't want to say stretch, but the pelvic floor does. It receives the load not by tightening, it receives the load by lengthening and being able to handle the load. So the popular myth or the popular belief is that when you sneeze, your body should Kegel up and that tightening prevents you from leaking. Actually, when you sneeze and jump and run, your pelvic floor is doing a lot of this. It's stretching out and coming back in, stretching out and coming back in. But ideally, it can do that under load, under tension. The load is the running, the load is your organs on your pelvic floor, the load is the sneezing, the force, all of that combined, and your pelvic floor should react and be able to manage that load by doing more of this kind of stretching action, loading eccentrically for those of you who speak anatomy or mechanics. So I don't know the reason why you're leaking when you run, but the majority of clients I'm seeing, the reason why is because their pelvic floor doesn't know how to handle the load and under this form of tension, and that's what we want to give the pelvic floor. So I don't necessarily recommend that everyone runs off and does 1,000 Kegels. We've seen, in my practice, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of women for whom that doesn't work. What works is retraining the pelvic floor to be able to manage load, training this plastic bag to handle 15 apples. Your body is designed to handle that. And women, another myth that they're told all the time, well, that just happens once you've had a baby. That's normal. Well, it's not really normal. It's common, but not normal. And there's a really big difference between normal and common. Ideally for us, normal would be being able to do those activities that you love, or sneezing is not maybe something you love, but running, working out, jumping jacks, trampoline jumping, and your muscles being able to manage that load, right? So that to me would be a more normal thing to be able to do. It is very common, but it's not normal, and it's completely unfair when we as women are written off as, oh, you've had a baby, that's just what happens to your body. No, that's not yes, it is happening, but that doesn't mean you have to live with that. And if you want to know more about how to train your pelvic floor to be able to handle loads, drop me a question in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer all of those questions. This post is primarily about why do you leak pee? You leak pee when you run, sneeze, jump, not because you had a baby, not because of that, but because your muscles are not able to handle the load. So they are failing. I hate that word, but I'm going to use it. Your muscles are failing under excessive amounts of load. So we really want to train your pelvic floor to carry 15 apples, just like the bag, right? We want the pelvic floor to be able to handle those loads because those are normal amounts of loads that the pelvic floor should be handling. And that's it for this session.